Security correspondent David Sanger has written extensively about Russia's efforts to influence the 2016 election. In his new article today, Sanger called the U.S. government actions against Russia, quote, the strongest American response yet to a state-sponsored cyber attack. And David Sanger, good enough to join us this morning from Washington. David, good morning to you.
Great to be with you, Josh.
What do these actions, I know, again, you called them the strongest American response yet to a cyber attack, but what do they really mean for Russia?
Well, they are the strongest to a cyber attack, but we don't have a whole lot of history there. The strongest until now had been some fairly modest sanctions against North Korea for its attack on Sony 2 years ago. I think the big question here is, are these strong enough to create a deterrent not only to the Russians, not only for the next American election, but for the elections that are coming up in Germany and in France, and to other countries that might take a look at the techniques that the Russians used here, this combination of new cyber techniques and sort of old-style information warfare, and figure out a way to go make use of it themselves. And I'm not persuaded that what the administration is working its way toward here yet is effective cyber deterrence, and it's certainly quite late, as many of President Obama's own aides concede.
David, you're talking about those sanctions that have been made public. The Obama administration has said that they will take some covert actions. Would those be effective, and is that what people want to see, given that that might not deter Russia either if it's not public?
A very good point, because the whole key to deterrence here is that the price you pay is pretty obvious. Otherwise, you're not deterring other actors who would go on. There are a number of things in the cyber realm that the United States could do to Russia. It could expose many of the financial dealings of the oligarchs. It could expose Putin's own fortune and how the oligarchs helped him get that. It could knock holes in the censorship system that the Russians have developed around the internet. It could do any of those things. My guess is the U.S. action will be pretty cautious, because throughout this, from the first the White House got a whiff of this in the last summer, was that they've been concerned about escalation, cyber escalation from the Russians. You don't want to get on an escalation ladder you can't get off.
David, just a short time ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin said he is not going to expel any U.S. diplomats. What do you make of that decision?
Boy, did he play this one well. So first he has their foreign minister come out and publicly say, I've recommended these. The recommendation strikes me as something that was made to be turned down, so that Putin can step in and say, I'm ignoring this president. I'm moving right on to Donald Trump. And then if you read the rest of the statement, it's, I don't want to interrupt the vacations of these American diplomats. Then he invites the American kids of the diplomats to come to the Kremlin around New Year's and enjoy the Christmas trees. So he's doing everything he can possibly do to say, I'm forgetting about Barack Obama. I'm moving on to the next guy.
Well, and to that point, David, you also wrote that there's a belief that perhaps these actions were intended to box in Donald Trump, who has now said, while saying for the last couple of days that people should move on, that he will meet with members of the intelligence community next week. What do you make thus far of President-elect Trump's response?
Well, I thought it was interesting that he said he would meet the intelligence representatives next week. It's not as if he hasn't already been receiving intelligence reports, and presumably those have included some about the Russian hacking, back to last summer when he became the nominee. He has consistently wanted to dismiss the thought that Russia could be involved, but I detected in that latest statement a sort of willingness to be open at least to the evidence, which I think is a helpful thing. President Obama's actions, though, I think were definitely intended as primarily at the Russians, but secondarily at trying to box in Mr. Trump, because what he would have to do is, after January 20th, basically lift these sanctions, reallow diplomats who are suspected of really being spies into the country. It's pretty clear that President-elect Trump's own party would be pretty upset about that.
To be continued. David Sanger of the New York Times, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you.